Welcome to today's Friday. No, it's not Friday. Today's Thursday live stream. We've got a special guest again. This is like 2 episodes in a row where we got another person in front of the camera. This is Dan Wowak of
Coalcracker, Bushcraft, and Appalachian Bushman School.
There you go. He's got a wonderful YouTube channel where he talks about bushcraft,
survival, wilderness living,
all that
bushcraft,
kind of good stuff.
All of that stuff.
Right. And so we've been spending, I don't know, 3-4 days. Has it been longer than that? It's just been 3 days,
longer
2.5 days, shooting a whole bunch of videos together. We've been having a lot of fun. So let's get to the housekeeping here. So this is Dan. This is John. Behind all this equipment here, we've got Aaron on the console. And he'll be reading out Super Chat stuff.
You have to hear me. To hear me, you got to donate. That's how it works.
And in the hot seat on the question thing is Kyle.
Hello.
There's Kyle. And the guy who's keeping us in line is Ryan.
Hello.
There he is. So those are the guys behind the scenes. There's actually lots of other people in the building doing crazy good stuff. But for the live stream, those guys are back there.
So we're lagging pretty bad right now. I don't know why. So just bear with us, and we'll try to just keep going.
The internet's wonky. Don't ask me why, but that's what live streams are all about. You never know what's going to happen. You never know when the live stream's going to die or keep going, and so we're just going to keep going until they scream. If a lot of people like to help us out with our channel, and if you would like to help us out monetarily, you can use the super chat, which is a way for your comment to kind of pop to the top in the chat window. And Aaron will see that. A lot of people also support us on Patreon, kind of a once a month, a small amount of money. A lot of people do that, and there's a Patreon link down in the description section. There's also merch on the website, so if you're interested in, although we're out of these, of course, we sold them all last week, but if you're interested in like the Nutmeg Meme mug or t-shirts or whatever, books, those things are on our website. There's a link down again in the description section. Also, if you're interested in Dan's stuff, you'll find the links down in the description section of this video. What's next, Ryan?
Let's find out who Dan is.
Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Dan Wowak. I'm the owner and operator of Coalcracker, Bushcraft, and Appalachian Bushman School. So Appalachian Bushman School, we teach everything from basic to advanced bushcraft, survival, wilderness living skills. And then Coalcracker Bushcraft, we sell online merchandise around survival, bushcraft, not 18th century. It's more modern.
Modern stuff.
Yeah, more modern stuff.
Cool.
Yep.
And sometimes you do 18th century.
Yeah, so I do 18th century reenactment a few times a year, and then, of course, we do this. So it's a good time always. And a lot of the stuff that I teach always relates back to that 18th century living
It
skills.
might be a little different in the equipment at times, whatever, but all the skills are basically
skill-wise it's the same, yep. Right. And I like to study that because a lot of that frontier living is really what, when you get out into the wilderness and you don't have tools at your disposal, that's what you have to fall back on.
Right, and they lived it, so
that was their life. Yeah, there was no playing in the woods. That was what they were doing every day.
Right.
Hey, we're going to move into some questions in just a minute if you guys want to start firing some in on the comments.
Right. If you got questions, pop them into the chat.
Are you ready to go ahead and talk about Patreon names?
Yeah. So let's talk about Patreon. A lot of people support it. I think we're up to like 350 or so individuals. It might be even more than that. Here are the ones that came in just in the last, I don't know, week, 10 days. There's, whoa, I won't say that one. Sebastian Hine, Madam Badger, Jeannie Karen, Juan Cadillo, Daniel Mazzanato, Katie Sweet Hake, Lee McGill, and Michael Seifert. I want to thank those new folks and everyone that helps us with Patreon. It really does. It's a great way to help us continue to do episodes and be able to get new equipment or whatever it takes, maybe even help to send us to an historic site. So we love that when that comes in. It's a real great encouragement, a lot of help. So thank you so much, everyone from Patreon.
Yeah, thank you, Patreon.
Thank you, guys. Hey, we're going to do some questions, and obviously you can ask anything that you want to, but can you talk about the types of questions that would be best today with the special guest?
Right. So since we got a special guest, he's got a lot of knowledge about survival, especially in the woods, bushcrafting skills, how to not kill yourself when you're out in the woods, right?
Well, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So a lot. If you've got questions specifically on that, and if it has to do with interrelating with history, historical situations, those are great questions. Some of those kind of pop up, and we'll talk about. We're basically open to anything within that category at all whatsoever, and we'll talk a little bit about the kinds of episodes that we've done too, and that'll help you. So
sweet. Yeah, we've got the Townsend's Instagram winner.
Oh yes, Townsend's Instagram winner this week is.
There it is.
It's live.
It's bread.
It's bread.
Yeah, you knew that though.
Yeah. Okay.
The Woodsman School.
Woodsman School.
They've been posting all kinds of photos, tagging us, and then we really appreciate it. They've purchased a lot of things from us, and we thought, hey, this is a great photo. So.
Great. Thank you so much.
How do you participate in
that? Now, if you would like to participate in the Instagram contest, it's a lot of fun, and we love to see how everybody's interacting with that. And it's been building, and there was a lot of really good choices this week. So I want to thank everyone who was participating in that. All you have to do is, if you got an interesting picture that's specifically, historical or about Townsend's merch or what else, anything that's kind of related to the channel.
Yeah, we see all sorts of stuff.
Right. All you have to do is hashtag Townsend's, and it's always helpful if you @tag Townsend's _official, that account, so we see that in case we miss it going through the hashtag. But definitely, if you've got some ideas for pictures, it is so much fun to see those come through, and that's an encouragement too. So I want to thank everyone that's been sending those pictures in, some great ones. I wish we could have 3 or 4 winners each week.
Yeah, we do see every one of them, so don't feel like we don't see it. We see it. We can only pick one winner.
Yeah.
Let's move into some questions.
Oh, let me do a donation real quick.
Okay, go
and
ahead.
Then we'll do questions. Just one. $20 from Amber. Thank you.
Amber, thank you
Thanks
so
a lot,
much.
Amber.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Amber.
she says, people ask why I bought a flint and steel. You'll never need that, they said. Probably not, but if I do, I'll need it real bad.
Yeah, we were just talking about that during the Facebook Live. We were saying that if everything else failed, which, again, maybe it will never fail, but if it does, that's never going to fail.
Well, I mean, particular items fail on you. Sometimes you'll have, it's like, oh, I've got this lighter. Nope, it doesn't work.
Or you'll lose your stuff, and you have that.
Flint and steel always works.
Speaking of flint and steel, we do have a link to that in the description today.
Right. If you're interested in a flint and steel kit, you can head over to the Townsend's website. There's a link down in the description section. Thank you, Amber.
Yeah, thank you so much.
What do you got for questions?
Okay, so a couple of them that kind of go together. What's a good survival soup, and what's your go-to survival foods?
Okay, so
Go for it.
survival food-wise, I think flour is a huge one, just because it's very packable. You can make a lot out of just a small amount. So if you have 2 or 3 pounds of flour, you can make Johnny cakes, you can make dumplings, you can use it to coat different pieces of meat or fish that you might
Catch.
Yeah. I'm losing my train of thought. But
yeah.
So anything like that works really well. Jerky's always good because it holds real long. And then on top of that, you always want to be looking for some type of meat source. So you want things that are very packable and things that last really long. And I think that's really the best bet for that.
The other two that specifically come to my mind, cornmeal is very similar to flour, really usable, and like parched corn that's pounded up, basically the same thing, but prepared in a little different way. And the other thing that just kind of, I forgot about it until just a couple of days ago, portable soup. Have you ever watched the portable soup episode? Yeah. So the portable soup is something that Lewis and Clark took a whole pounds and pounds of this stuff out west on their trek. And again, it's a way to make sort of like instant soup. It's like a period bouillon, a great way to make something out of very little bit of weight that you could carry with you. So that's another one of those great connections with history.
And I think you need to always keep in mind when you think about survival food, that's exactly what it is. It's just food you're eating to survive. It's not something that needs to be
gourmet,
super pleasurable. It's not something that you're just like waiting. I mean, you're waiting all day just to eat. So it's not, doesn't have to be the most flavorful. You're just looking what you can have with you to sustain you a little bit longer.
In fact, maybe you don't want something too flavorful. You don't want just...
Yep.
So there you go. Yeah, that was great.
How do you strip birch bark safely?
So it depends. There's a couple different ways that you can do that. Majority of the time, what I like to tell individuals is if you're going to strip any type of birch bark, that you want to either, you're going to take the whole tree, which of course that's taking away and you're not doing it safely, or you really want to take very thin layers off and not have to cut deep down. You don't want to cut down that you have the actual wood exposed, and you'll be good to go with that.
So safely as in safe to the tree, not to the person
Yes.
who's removing it.
Yes.
John, this is a question for you.
Okay.
What's the indexing system in Townsend's Commonplace book?
The indexing system is explained at the beginning of the Commonplace book. It's a really interesting, and it's too complex for me, and I haven't looked at it really recently, but it's a great way for you to basically index the book. So it has to do with the first couple letters of the topic. And so you might want to make notes, so it's like Evernote in a notebook, right? And you might want to make notes about some really great information you saw on pemmican. And so you would take the first two letters, PE, and then you would have in the beginning of the Commonplace book, in that PE section, on page 14, there's a note about something that starts with PE. I think it's something like that. Really interesting system. Commonplace books really need to come back into use. They're a great system for keeping basically notes in your journal.
Hey, Dan, tell us a little bit about your school, what attending classes looks like, what kind of things that you guys go through when you do that.
Yeah, so we have really 3 different sectors of classes. The most common, we have Bushcraft and Survival, which the basic level is 3 days, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Bushcraft is really around, you specifically have your gear that is camp-wise, so traditional camp, and we're going to use everything we don't have. We're going to use items from the landscape. So we're going to make ourselves more comfortable out there with minimal gear. Everything we need to be comfortable, we're using from the landscape, and that's really what Bushcraft is all about. The survival end of what we do is based around you're out in a wilderness environment or a woodland environment, you get lost, something happens. How do you sustain yourself until rescue comes and finds you? And then later on in a more advanced class, how do you self-rescue yourself? So that's really the nuts and bolts of just keeping yourself alive. So we have the Bushcraft, that's the camping and making stuff from the landscape, being more comfortable, survival, keeping yourself alive. And then to wrap all that up is our Bushman class, and that goes into the extended wilderness living. So you take the Bushcraft and survival skills, mash them together, then add in your how to set up wall tents, how to set up maybe a yurt, how to notch cabin logs, use traditional hand tools, make more permanent type homestead, hunt, trap, fish, and live out there long term. So that's really what all that's about. So our class is 3 days for the basic, out to 5 days for that Bushman class, and all of that's on my website.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
So real quick, we're still having some pretty bad lag issues. I'm not cutting, just so chat knows, back to the back camera because each time I do, it seems to lag out. There is a chance if it keeps doing this, we're going to shut down for a second, try to work something out technically within the software. But right now, it seems like it's okay. But so yeah, there might be a spot where we jump in, shut down for a minute or two, and then come back. So just bear with us if that happens. But thanks for putting up with our slow internet.
We could reboot if we needed to, but if we do, we'll be down for a good 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it's looking okay now.
Okay.
But just a heads up to everyone in the chat. Okay. Sorry.
Great.
Hey, let's roll into some more questions, Kyle.
Okay, so what is better, a titanium flint striker or a traditional steel flint striker?
I've never personally used a titanium flint striker. I didn't know. I've never even seen one, to be honest with you. So I'm a traditional guy. I think the traditional flint striker just made of steel is going to probably be your best bet. Because if you're worried about weight at that point, I mean, weight-wise,
yeah.
I mean, is it, I don't even know what is it,
yeah,
1 ounce
or
less?
2, yeah.
So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I always tell people not to take anything away from the titanium carry kind of people, but if you can cut 5 pounds of body fat off and get in better shape, then, you know, there's your 5 pounds extra gear. That's how I always looked at it.
There you go.
Makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
They say, I'm really curious about how soldiers or even travelers treated their wounds, like cuts, grazes, bites from animals, etc.
I think the down and dirty with that is a lot of times there was a lot of fatality around that. I mean, there wasn't that much medical treatment that they can do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so the thing I've been kind of going through, especially for this week, I've been doing a lot of prep, rereading over and over again Nicholas Cresswell's journal. And so Nicholas hurts himself a couple of different times. He gets ill. One time he's bathing in the river and he cuts his foot, and he's out of commission for a while. They actually leave him behind for a little while. But several different times he gets shown about Native American medicine. So when you're in that deep bush and there are no doctors except what there is in Native American healing. And so there's a couple different times when that's the medicine that gets used. And so really, if they're in that kind of setting, I mean, it really depends on where this person is traveling, but if they're in the deep backcountry, that's the only option, that and heal yourself. And I mean, if you get messed up, you might not survive it.
Yep.
So, or maybe somebody carries you out back into civilization because there's no way to survive without someone helping you back into civilization. So,
but that even goes for today. I mean, if you're way back at somewhere and you get seriously injured, it's just maintain yourself until you can get proper medical treatment.
Right.
I mean, that's really it.
And you need to be careful not to get injured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would people stay warm in that time period?
Blankets were a big thing. Everyone carried a blanket. And they might have clothing that's already like that, like a greatcoat or something. But cloaks, blankets, we dealt with blankets a lot.
Yeah, so there's different ways you can use blankets to stay warm, and of course campfires. I mean, they were always around campfires, and I think that in general, I mean, they lived in that environment of cold weather, so they were a lot more immune to it than we were. So when we go out now, we were just in this nice warm building. We go outside, it's 40 degrees. It's chilly.
Cold,
but they're adjusted a lot more to it. So I think they were a lot more rugged during that time, way more rugged than we were.
Definitely.
So I think that's a really great segue to go into. Let's talk about what the last 3 days, some things that the future videos that we're rolling out are going to cover.
Yeah, so we did a lot of videos in the last 3 days.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Speed back up. It's going to drop out of the stream. Yeah, it just lost the stream.
Do we want to try a whole